As I mentioned, my name is Shahela. I'm the director of the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund. Thank you for joining together this afternoon with us. The objective of this call will be to focus on project design and building partnerships if you are thinking about putting in a proposal for this round of funding. Next slide. And so a little bit about the program. The Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund is a partnership between Restore America's Estuaries, or RAE, EPA, and the Long Island Sound Partnership, formerly known as the Long Island Sound Study. So the purpose of the fund is to build capacity for organizations and also provide funding to address environmental issues within marginalized communities between New York and Connecticut. So any projects that are really impacting environmental health risks and the health of Long Island Sound Estuary. Next slide. A little bit about the Long Island Sound Partnership. The Long Island Sound is an urban sea. It's home to more than 1,200 invertebrates, 170 fish species, and dozens of migratory birds. And the watershed is home to over 9 million people. And so the Long Island Sound Partnership actually was formed in 1985. It was a bi-state partnership made up of federal agencies, but also state programs like Connecticut DEEP and New York DEC, and also other program partners like Sea Grant. And so, and they are concentrated in protecting the estuary and restoring the estuary as well. So next slide. And so everything that we do in the Long Island Sound Partnership and all the funding programs are tied to the Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. Every national estuary program has one. And so we just recently released a new edition of ours, which focuses on 4 themes of clean waters and healthy watersheds, thriving habitats and abundant wildlife, sustainable and resilient communities, informed and engaged public. And so within each of these 4 themes, there are goals, objectives, and actions. And so as you're kind of thinking of putting in a proposal for LISCIF, otherwise known as the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund, it's important to note that all the funding streams and the metrics line up with the CCMP. And because this is fairly new, and also some people are not as familiar with the CCMP, our team is available to help break down any questions you might have in deciphering this, the CCMP, but also like what metrics and actions match most closely to your project as well. And so these slides will also be available to you. So if you click on the hyperlink, it'll take you to the links for the CCMP and the actions. Thank you. Next slide. So a little bit about Restore America's Estuaries. We were made up in 1995 among several member groups across the nation. The closest that we work with being Save the Sound, which Alex Rodriguez is a part of. And so together we want to advance the health and restoration of estuaries, but also prioritize projects, build capacity. And so RAE does a lot of events like hosting summits and the tech transfer workshop that's coming up in New Haven later this month. And if you'd like more information, you can always visit our website or ask us more information about it as well. Next slide. And so for the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund, the core team is myself as the program director. I'm the day-to-day lead on program management, designing the fund, but also talking to community members and any gaps that they're seeing in capacity building, any trainings that they need regionally. As you've met, Kelly Marty is our program associate, so she really helps a lot in communications, outreach. If you need funds to attend conferences, whether you're an applicant or not, if you need funds for your organization to attend trainings or accommodation, Kelly will be also able to help you with that. And then not on this call is Andrea Pauly. She's our grants administrator, and she'll actually be leading a webinar on building a federal budget for folks as they kind of think about preparing to put on an LOI. But once you receive your grant, also, Andrea is available to just manage your grant and work with you on any questions you might have. But from the application point of view, as you're putting together your LOI, if you need assistance from us or if you have any questions, Andrea will be able to help you with that as well. And then overall, overseeing the program is our CEO and president, Daniel Hayden. We also have Dr. Philip McAdoo, who's also our senior advisor for Inclusive Coast Initiative. So Philip really helps me with the design and implementation of the program. Alex Rodriguez from Save the Sound is a program specialist. He also helps with community outreach, engagement throughout the duration of the entire program. Brad Williamson, who is not on this call, helps with government affairs and communications. So if there's any state policies, anything like that, Brad can really assist everyone with. And then Ashley Ross is our vice president for program administration and finance. So she ensures that we are complying with federal rules. And usually if there's not a question that Andrea or I can answer, we'll loop Ashley in that process as well. So this is your core team, and whether you're an applicant or not, whether you put on an application or not, feel free to use our resources and get on a call with us if you have any questions about any funding opportunity or specifically LISCIF, or any type of training that you might need as well. So the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund program goals, we got refunded in March of this year. So we got another 5.9 million for this program, which allows us to carry 3 more rounds of funding. So we just put out our RFA on September 2nd, and the grant size is 1.2 million per round. So for this year, it'll be 1.2 million, and then the next 2 years as well. And so the maximum grant size is pretty small, considering that folks who are applying for this are, either never have applied for federal grants, or, they just need that support to be able to get other grants in the future as well. So the maximum grant size is between $5,000 to $100,000. And then annual and state-specific learning exchanges are something that we host. So we've hosted the annual learning exchange in New York City for 2 years in a row. The next one is on June 25th at the Graduate Center across from the street from the Empire State Building. And we'll also be hosting mini learning exchanges and training opportunities in New York and Connecticut. So if you have not signed up for a newsletter, I suggest you do, and you'll get tuned into all of those opportunities. And so for Ray's role in this is really as a cooperative agreement where, EPA puts this RFA out, but we manage the day-to-day. So we're managing the 3 rounds, we're overseeing the implementation, designing the program, based on conversations with community members and assessments, figure out which trainings to put on based on gaps, and then review lessons and successes learned, and overall trying to strengthen and diversify connections for the Long Island Sound region. Next slide. So for our funding priorities, as you've remembered, it ties back to the CCMP. Any type of award you get from the Long Island Sound Partnership will tie back to the CCMP. Again, focusing on these 4 themes: clean waters and healthy watersheds, thriving habitats and abundant wildlife, sustainable and resilient communities, informed and engaged public. And so any type of eligible project will be community driven, number 1. And number 2, seeking to address any financial support that we can provide for projects, but also addressing human and health risks, and especially if you're from a marginalized, underserved community. Next slide. And so within each of these themes, the clean waters and healthy watersheds focuses on restoring and maintaining water quality within Long Island Sound and its watershed. Thriving habitats and abundant wildlife focuses on protecting health and resilience of habitats and restoring wildlife within the Long Island Sound. Sustainable and resilient communities focuses on empowering Long Island Sound communities to plan and respond to environmental challenges in ways that prioritize well-being for all. And then finally, we have a change in this theme. Now it's known as the informed and engaged public. So this is to inspire and empower the public to appreciate, value, and protect Long Island Sound and the waters that flow into the sound. So as we kind of go through these slides, we'll be able to dive a little bit deeper into each theme, depending on which one you want to target. And a lot of the times, a lot of projects are hitting on multiple themes, but as a minimum requirement, we require you to at least choose one, right? Next slide. And so the great thing about LISCIF is that our program priorities are so wide and varied. On the left-hand side, we talked about the theme, and they all are related to our project priorities. So number one, also these are not numbered in priority, so it's just numbered just to list it. But number one, projects that result in quantifiable pollutant prevention or reduction, restoring habitats, projects that foster diverse and balanced abundant populations of birds, fish, and wildlife, public engagement, knowledge, and stewardship, projects that enhance community resilience and sustainability, any design or planning project that sets the stage for implementation for water quality projects or habitat restoration, resilience projects, community-based science projects, data management and integration. If you have data, but you need to disseminate it across different communities and translate it, this is something that we would definitely fund. And also any other similar activities that you propose, as long as it's aligned with the Clean Water Act. So the priorities are very varied and diverse. Next slide. And so if you would like to look at past awardees, one good thing to look at is on our website. We have the past 2 rounds of funding, and listed are the different organizations throughout Connecticut and New York that we funded, the amount size, what kind of projects, the themes, the activities that they did. And so for our first round in 2024, we have 18 projects along the Sound. And if you click on the red dots, it'll open up to what those projects are and give you more information. And then again, you will have these slides, so you can always click on the link and it'll take you to that as well. Next slide. Our most recent grant, was in July 2025, and this was 16 organizations across New York and Connecticut. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into examples of ideal projects or really strong projects. Next slide. And so these are some of the project examples that came out from the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund. Next slide. And so if we take a look at this theme is the Clean Water and Healthy Watersheds. So this is Hutchinson River Restoration Project. They were awarded in 2024. And they really propose to be able to identify pollution sources that were coming from a lot of these industrial companies that were housed there before the Clean Water Act. So what they really wanted to do is identify what the resources were, or the data, and then also be able to have accountability measures and also inform community. And so our fund for them was to purchase this pontoon that they're sitting on right now. And that allowed them to go in through narrow waterways to be able to get that data collection without getting stuck out there. But another beautiful thing that came out of this is that it created access points for community. As you know, a lot of marginalized communities are cut off to the waterfront and access points. So they use this pontoon to also give tours. So there were a lot of high school students and students that had never been to the waterfront, had never been on the water. And they were really able to kind of use this pontoon to also do this. So not only are they collecting data, trying to assess it, but there's so many other co-benefits of like involving community as well. So it's one of my favorite projects. All the projects are my favorite, but this is one that's close and dear to my heart. And so this really falls within the Clean Water and Healthy Watersheds. And so identifying industrial pollution along the Hutchinson River and its community impact. And then it also, all the work that they do, they're a small organization. It allowed like AOC to give them discretionary funding to support their projects. So, and I think that's really the goal of it, like for organizations that haven't ever received funds historically to be able to get these grants and allow them to get these larger grants, right? And more wider support in that sense. And again, I know there's a lot of text here. You can also go on our website to like look more deeper into this, but also you'll have these slides at hand as well. Next slide. So under the theme of thriving habitats and abundant wildlife, we have Maureen Dunn here. She is now retired. She used to work for CTUC Environmental Association. And so this was between Nassau and Suffolk County on Long Island. And really their project focused on their half-shell program of really educating different communities and restaurants about the importance of oyster recycling, and also the different phases and processes of curing and, you know, how that is helpful to the overall ecosystem. And so, so Maureen is just leading a training here on recycling and restoration of oysters. And so this is another ideal example of what like could be under the funding theme of thriving habitats and abundant wildlife, right? Next slide. And under the theme of sustainable and resilient communities, we have Alliance for the Mystic River Watershed in Connecticut. They're focusing on the Mystic River watershed on the whole. And their proposal, this was recently, they got awarded for a second year in a row. It was kind of another phase of their design, which was to establish a center for Indigenous, regenerative, and community learning in southeastern Connecticut in support of a resilient Long Island Sound watershed. And this is really to use traditional ecological knowledge of the Eastern Pequot Nation, pairing that with science and other technical expertise to really come up with community designed resilient plans, right? As the climate is changing, as weather and all these extreme storm events happening, how to create more resiliency within community. And so this is like another project that's like I'm really fond of, and that incorporates, you know, not just only the implementation of the project element, but the community engagement, the outreach, like overall a holistic involvement of everything. Next slide. For the informed and engaged public, this is also a recent awardee in July 2025. This was the Connecticut River Museum. And as you can see, it's a historical photo of it underwater. So our fund provided funds for them to have a exhibit on rising waters, flooding of the Connecticut River. And this was open from June to August. And it really takes data and information and informs communities of what the reality and the history is, right? And the health of Long Island Sound. And so really, if you're thinking of an informed and engaged public sense of view, thinking about data or, you know, sets of it and how to kind of get it across different communities. And so, you know, again, you can also visit our website and look deeper into all these projects as well. But these are just like 4 main projects that I picked that kind of related with the theme and what they were trying to do well. Next slide. And so this is something that we require more in the full proposal phase, which I call a project impact model. And so this is just a set of examples that I created for you to see in your mind how you can connect and flow the CCMP with your project. And so, for example, if we looked at rainwater garden swales, if that was your project, how would you match it to the funding priority? You know, could it match? So this one best matched with projects that result in quantifiable pollutant prevention or reduction. And the CCMP funding theme for that is clean waters and healthy watersheds. You would indicate your impact. So redirect excess rainwater to garden spaces, reducing stormwater runoff and removing pollutants in the sound. And then you would look into the CCMP action and see which one is the most relevant. So for this one, it would be CW Clean Waters and Healthy Watersheds 2-2, which is implement nature-based solutions and other practices that improve and maintain water and quality and ecosystem health. And again, as you're kind of thinking about your proposal, if you need help and trying to see which one is the best aligning, feel free to schedule a call with me and Kelly, and we'll be more than happy to kind of help you through that. Next slide. Another example is shellfish aquaculture and restoration. So this one, the funding priority that best matches would be projects that foster a diverse, balanced, and abundant populations of fish, birds, and wildlife. The CCMP theme is thriving in abundant wildlife. The impact for this would be to increase populations of oysters, clams, and scallops within the implementation of a shellfish management plan, which also supports coastal restoration efforts. And the best action that would match with this is 1-1, which is restore coastal habitat by supporting projects that implement established restoration techniques or help validate innovative techniques and include broad collaboration and communication. And, we did a revision of the CCMP, and really the difference from the previous one to this one is the previous one had hundreds of actions. And so now it's a lot more focused, but also general in the sense that it's more clear for you to be able to decide which one best matches with your project. Next slide. The next one is, for example, if you wanted to propose a community resilience preparedness project, this would most match with the priority of projects that enhance community resilience and sustainability. The CCMP funding theme is sustainable and resilient communities, and the impact would be to create community decision-making opportunities for resilience preparedness throughout training programs. And so this could match most closely with developing, delivering, and facilitating training programs in relevant response to community needs that assist with sustainability and resilience. And really thinking about like to-go bags. If a natural disaster were to happen or something were to happen, if, for example, if this is your project, how would you train the community? How many sessions would you have? Would you have it in different languages? So really, thinking about something like this would definitely fit under this theme, right? And these are just examples, by the way. Yeah. Next slide. Another example would be communicating water quality reports and findings. And so this one would be best matched with data management and integration projects with informed and engaged public as the overall theme. Effectively communicate water quality findings using environmental indicators and reports to educate diverse communities on the health of the Long Island Sound watershed. And the action would be 2-4, support efforts to assess the public's understanding of Long Island Sound and its watershed. And this is really important because a lot of the times you have a lot of professionals and experts who really understand the material. But when you think about vulnerable communities, who have full-time jobs, they don't really have time to understand highly technical data. There is a huge gap and opportunity to kind of address this issue of, we have this data, but how do we make it accessible to people? How do we make it so people know it in their language? It's not such a highly technical language. So this is definitely like an example of an ideal project that can kind of address these issues. Next slide. So next, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Alex Rodriguez, and he has been really, really crucial in, giving examples and just understanding of what meaningful partnerships and engagements look like. So a lot of the times when people are putting in proposals, they will just list names and just to get the funding. We don't want that. We want to see how you kind of build those partnerships and how you can really be a tool to co-benefit each other with other communities, organizations, other partners. So Alex will be talking more about that. So I'll hand it over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Shayla. And it's a pleasure to be a part of this project team with you and Kelly and others. At Save the Sound, we are no strangers to project design and building partnerships. As I mentioned earlier, our work takes us region-wide. We work to ensure that uh, the people of this region are protected using our legal and scientific expertise from climate to land protection, water quality monitoring, and ecological restoration, and more. We work to ensure that The Long Island Sound rivers and lakes are safe for swimming, fishing, and boating, and our waters are and coastal habitats support thriving populations of wildlife. Uh, and we are and our relation to the Long Island Sound Community Impact Fund is through promotion of this fund to our partners as a way to help them build their organizational capacities to remain engaged in this work and bring in new people who have not yet seen themselves in this work but want to participate. I'll move on to the next slide, please. Building parts and building partnerships in the Long Island Sound region is a wonderful challenge. Um, the groups referenced by Shahela in this presentation are groups that have centered fair and meaningful engagement in their project design. How have they done that, and how does Save the Sound do that? Well, I'll share that with you. Uh, Personal connections. It is important we maximize the effectiveness of our networks throughout the region. Ask your people who they know and who they think should be a part of certain conversations. Come to those conversations with honesty and transparency, and make sure you show up for them when they are organizing certain community educational forums. Arrange regular meetups and check-ins with your partners. Find the areas where your programming coalesces. Pause and take time to grow those relationships in every venue possible. Make sure you show up for them. Make sure you work with your communications teams to share the work that your partners are doing. You know, not only when you are a listed sponsor, but just because you can. Um, another thing to consider in your building of partnerships within the Long Island Sound region is respectful disengagement when you disagree with your partner on things. Uh, it is important that you find the balance in your relationship, that you don't get angry with one another over limited capacity to exercise certain events and programs, that you craft and solidify community agreements ahead of time, perhaps a memorandum of understanding to make things a little more official of what you expect from your partners and what they expect from you. And in getting to that stage, be prepared to have some uncomfortable conversations. There are groups in the Long Island Sound region that are very well resourced, and there are groups that are starting out for the first time. They may be a couple years into shellfish restoration work or green infrastructure work, and they need help. And so, to the degree that you can support them when you are applying for LISCIF and you develop your budget, make sure that they have an equal say in their stake in your budget development and your project narrative. I'll move on to the next slide, please. Fairness and public participation. This is absolutely crucial to building partnerships. The example I have here to the left is a rename your park exercise that was a part of a Mike at the Mill event that I held with community partners in New Haven, Connecticut last year. This is a part of Save the Sound's long-term work to increase stewardship of a parklet we call Haven and Exchange, located nearby the English Station power plant in Fairhaven, a neighborhood within New Haven. As a part of this project, uh, we we are working to help Fairhaven community members gain access to the Mill River, and stewardship of this parklet is a way to get there because because there is a certain amount of uh, neighborhood power that we need to build in order to help the community gain access to the Mill River. And so holding events and in planning certain educational events to recognize that goal that we have of helping Fairhaven community members gain access to the Mill River. We need to have transparent and accountable decision making. We need to make sure that our partners know our intentions and where our weaknesses lie or where our vulnerabilities lie. And we need to make sure that our decision making is accessible and inclusive. In this activity you see here to the left, I am welcoming young people to share what they believe should be the name of the parklet that Save the Sound has taken stewardship of in coordination with the city of New Haven. And so one of the things they wrote down on that poster board is Parque de los Flores, as something they believe the park should be named, and that is something that is true to them. And this is a long engagement process in which we are taking inventory of what the community thinks the park should be named, and so that brings me to my next point: equal partnerships, co-production, and self-determination. It is important that every organization feel valued when you are participating in community engagement work. If you are leading a certain community engagement campaign, make sure that everybody's needs are addressed and supported to the best degree you can. If you have a if you are promising certain deliverables in LISCIF, you need to make sure that your partners agree to those community engagement deliverables as well. Like I was saying in the previous slide, you need to make sure that they have had equal input in the amount of subaward money you are allotting them for their role in supporting you in your project. These projects need to be be worked on with utmost respect, efficiency, and non-exploitation, as there are groups that have been long exploited by higher resourced organizations and given very little for their participation in these processes. And so make sure that these values are at the top of your mind as you consider your application for LISCIF. Next slide, please. So I'm going to give two examples of equal and meaningful partnerships that I'm going to share with you all today. And at the end of both slides, I'm going to ask you the question, and feel free to come off mute to share your opinion on if you think this is an example of an equal and meaningful partnership. And so I'll begin. Organization 1 has asked Organization 2 to partner with them to hold a neighborhood conversation in New Rochelle on water quality. Organization 1 is a 30-year-old statewide nonprofit with 40 plus staff and a wealth of resources. Organization 2 is a 5-year-old neighborhood group that works with a much smaller funding capacity, but is more influential in New Rochelle than Org 1. Org 2 is on the ground knocking on doors each weekend in advance of the event that they're going to put on together to promote that event. They have committed resources for media, food, and translation services, while Org One has only submitted a press advisory and one social post in lead up to the event. And so I want to volunteer to come off mute and tell me if they think this is an example of a equal and meaningful partnership.
And you can also utilize the chat to put your responses as well, if you don't feel comfortable getting off mute.
We have one participant in the chat say it is not an equal or meaningful partnership, and I agree. Um, yep, and another person has contributed. No, it is not clear how Org 2 is benefiting from this partnership. Thank you both. Contribution, and another person has chimed in. Contribution of resources, including time, should be more equitable. And I absolutely agree. And so I thank you all for your participation in relaying those concerns. And now I'm going to show you another slide, and you tell me if you think this is an example of an equal and meaningful partnership. Next slide, please. And so my next example is this. Organization one wants to increase public participation in quarterly meetings they have arranged with a water utility provider per a private grant they received. Org 2 is concerned about rising utility costs for their members, but doesn't know where to relay their concerns. Org 1 offers Org 2 guidance on how to participate in the quarterly utility meetings, helps their members prepare comments, and offers them honorariums in recognition of their time and labor. As a result of Org 1's investment, Org 2 becomes better informed on how to relay concerns to the water utility and ask Org 1 to form a partnership to provide community education to their membership on this issue. Is this an example of an equal and meaningful partnership? Uh, you can come off mute or you can relay your comments in the chat. Mhm. We have one participant say, yes, the partnership supports the goals of both. And another participant agrees. It's a two-way street. Um, I share these examples with you to instill in you as you consider your LISCIF LOIs. Make sure that the co-production is there in your LISCIF LOIs. It is absolutely important that your partners feel that they are contributing and receiving equal amounts of compensation and recognition, among other qualities, for their participation in your project. I want to thank you for your feedback, and I'm going to pass the mic back to Shahela.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. And again, if you have any questions later on, you can email myself, Kelly, or Alex. But I wanted to give an opportunity for folks to ask questions in the chat, or you can come off mute before I shared additional resources with you. And the question can either be for me or Alex, or some part of your LOI if you're thinking of putting one in.
Maybe we can stop the recording if people want to
Oh,
be
sure.
off the record.
Yeah, that's a great idea.